Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Blockbuster Brothers. I will be at the farmer's market any given Saturday. Okay. Got to support local foods. But really, what we're talking about today is the Netflix documentary series focusing on the SEC, the powerhouse of college football. Brian, you got to check it out. What'd you think?
I did. And you know what? Netflix does a great job with these documentaries. I think as we've said this many times on the show before, life is the greatest author and storyteller there is. There's a reason why documentaries will always be a thing. People will be always interested in seeing the kind of the behind the scenes, what goes into, many different things around the world. And in America here, football's huge. It's kind of ludicrous how big college sports are and sports in general, and how much we invest, and how big and how how much they profit off of kids playing sports. It is crazy, and how in love they are with it, specifically in the SEC, which is what this show focuses on. It's kind of based off of the show, the Oliver Stone, with Jamie Foxx, Al Pacino, Any Given Sunday. So this is kind of like, instead of football, NFL being on Sunday, Saturdays are for football, college football. And it's interesting to see the inside the scenes of these big top powerhouses, all the money that goes into it, how much effort these players are putting into it, how big of a dream they are as well. So, I loved it. I think Netflix does a great job with these docu series. And if you're a fan of football, college football, this is a hit, and you definitely got to watch it. I like sports. I like college football, but this was awesome to get to see. It even makes you connect and feel even more like you want to check out this year's season.
Yeah, I agreed with Brian. And the production company that made this was called Box to Box Films. They are the same people behind the Drive to Survive Formula One series. So if you haven't checked that out, I didn't give two rips about F1 racing. I didn't even know what it was. I watched that series. I was through the roof on it, became a big fan. They also made the Tour de France Unchained series in addition to other stuff as well. And here's my thing. So I enjoyed it. It was great. I thought it was like an A- or B+ as far as, I think the Drive to Survive season 1 is better, let's say. I wish they would have interviewed more players in each episode, but that probably came with a price with regards to NIL. So maybe they could only
That's
do
right.
a couple players because it's an extra 20 grand per, and then, what are you going to keep adding on that stuff? But I watched almost the whole season. I got one episode left. My question and my thought is, why on earth did Alabama and Georgia decide not to be a part of it? And I believe Kentucky is not even a part of it, meaning they didn't interview the coach, they didn't interview the players, they didn't focus on that program. Because, yes, let's forget about Kentucky for a second. Great guys, you're Alabama, you're Georgia. I understand you're so great and you're so big and whatever. You are only as cool to young athletes that want to play as your school as you are today versus, you can't, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you can't rely on name brand and history of success to be the only thing that's bringing people to your program. Because I didn't know anything about Vanderbilt football, but when I watched this show, I fell in love with the coach. The quarterback's a little bit of a psycho, but he's doing all the right things. He's a very grounded kid overall. And I became a big fan. Well, if I'm 32 and have no shot at playing football, that's fine. But what about the 15-year-old kid or the 8th grader or the 6th grader that wants to play college football, and you watch this show about the SEC and you have dreams to play in the SEC? Now you're losing out. Maybe people are going to go more toward Vanderbilt, more towards LSU, these programs that were featured more heavily in this show. So that would have been my thought to, the athletic director at Alabama and Georgia is like, guys, what are you doing? Like, why would you opt out on this? Well, there's too many cameras. Yeah, who cares? There's cameras everywhere all the time anyway. So I just thought it was missing out. And just last thing I wanted to say was the linebacker for LSU, Whit Weeks. I love that guy. I was like, he is awesome. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it for people that like college football, and even if you don't, I would suggest it. Any last thoughts, Brian?
I think those are all really great points. I wonder if money had to come into it. They think that they're too big to be bothered, kind of with a little bit of the hard knock scenario going on with the NFL teams right now. It's like, hey, we don't want this publicity. But like you said, I think that part of recruiting, which isn't a part of NFL. You don't recruit, you just, you draft, and that's how it goes. There is more choice with all these students and these young kids, and this is how kids get to see these programs, see their facilities. That's a huge part about it. I know that Alabama probably wants to be like, we're too big for this, but you know what? Adapt or die. And just because you were on the top then doesn't mean you're always going to be on the top. Just ask Disney how that's working out for them. So you should always be vigilant and always looking to, not let your ego get in the way of making decisions that are good for the program, even if that, doesn't feel like, I don't know, the Alabama way or the Georgia, that they're too big. They're dogging on kind of Vanderbilt throughout that. And as Stephen felt it, I felt the same way. I think Vanderbilt was the biggest winner on it. So they can talk as much crap about Vanderbilt, but we'll see in a couple of years if they're still talking crap. Things change. It doesn't always stay the same. Because as they said, any given Saturday.